All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and talk about the MoxiEngage system. And as we do that, if you have questions and stuff along the way, just let me know. I got to get rid of some stuff off my screen here real quick. So let me hide the video panel. All right, so to access MoxiEngage, so let me kind of give you first the background and the story of this. MoxiEngage is still somewhat of a new system for us, and when I say that, like, we've had it for a while now, but it's still somewhat new. They're at least newer, I guess, to the company and things. So kind of the background on it was, initially, we were using a system that was called Business Builder that was provided by Market Leader, and when I say they, Century 21 decided they were going to create their own. They decided, we don't want to be in we don't want to have to keep paying for this, because it's a lot of money if you think about that, for what they're providing for agents all across the whole country every Century 21. And so they decided that they were going to create their own. So we did this huge marketing blitz. This was a few years ago, and started telling the agents, hey, we've created something that's going to even be better. And they came to Salt Lake, we promoted the program, and then it never really worked. And so what happened then is they decided, well, that didn't really work out great, so we're going to go buy a system. So they went and found, there was a company that was called Zip Realty that Century 21, or the people that own Century 21, went and bought Zip Realty. And really they were buying Zip Realty because they wanted access to the program that they had created, because it actually was a really good program. And so they bought it, took it on, and then they hired developers, software developers, and they were trying to change it and make it better. And then about, I don't know, a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, they decided, yeah, we're not really a software development company. So they went out and found this Moxie system. And so now that's why we have what we have. So just a little bit of background on all of that. So the MoxiEngage system is designed for helping you to keep track of your sphere of influence. So that's what we're going to talk about. There is a Moxie Present and a Moxie Impress and MoxiEngage, and so we're going to talk about the Engage, which is the CRM part, and we'll do other classes on Moxie Present and what you need to know about that as well. So to access it, so the way you're going to access the MoxiEngage system, there's actually two ways to go about it. The first way is you go to 21online.com and you're going to log in to your login for 21 Online, which brings you then to this page. From here, the way that I do it is I click on the menu here and then come over here and you'll see Productivity Hub. And once I click on Productivity Hub, that's going to then load me into, this is all of the software tools that we have available to us as agents with Century 21. So you can see as I scroll through, there's a bunch of things here, and I've got a separate class that I go through and talk about more of these. But as you go down in alphabetical order, you get here to MoxiEngage. And then, as I mentioned, there's Moxie Impress and Moxie Present. But I'm going to click on this for MoxiEngage. Now, just one thing to point out while I'm here, I can click on MoxiEngage, this Go to Moxie right here. But if I clicked on Go to Moxie here or Go to Moxie on the Present, all three of these are going to take me to the exact same spot. So I don't know why they didn't just have one tile that just said Moxie, go to Moxie, whatever. But any of the three of these that you click on are going to take you to the exact same spot. So we'll go ahead and click on the MoxiEngage here. And then what's going to happen now is it's going to load me into the Moxie system. So as I'm now in here, you can see up at the top, it does have Moxie Present, MoxiEngage, Moxie, or the My website. So this is the website that you have. And again, we have a different class we'll teach on that. And then Moxie Impress. So once I'm within this, I just click on whichever one that I'm wanting to go to. And so because we're doing Engage, I'm just going to click on that one. Now, so I mentioned that there's two different ways of accessing the MoxiEngage system. The other way that you can access the MoxiEngage is you'll notice up here at the top, it has engage.century21.com. You could actually just up here type in engage.century21.com and then hit enter, and it will load you then into this same spot. The only difference is if you go to engage.century21.com, it's going to ask you to log in, and the login you're going to use is the exact same that you would use to access 21 Online. So it's your 21 Online access, but that's just a shortcut. If you wanted to get just straight into Engage, you can just put engage.century21.com, log in using your 21 Online login information, and then it's going to land you onto this page. So apparently they've got some type of a survey here for me. Okay, so now let me just point out for any of you that are accessing it for the very first time, it's actually not going to bring you to here. It's going to first have you decide and choose an email address that you're going to associate with it. And then it gives you two different options. It gives you the option of Microsoft 360 or Gmail. So I don't know why it gives us the option for the Microsoft 360, because that one's not going to work. And anytime we've had an agent click on that, it totally messes their whole thing. So don't do that, okay? The other option though is Gmail. So now let me tell you the advantages and disadvantages of connecting your Gmail. And the reason I always want to explain this is sometimes agents might want to decide to create a separate Gmail that they use to connect with MoxiEngage. And here's why. Is what's going to happen, and again, this is good or bad, depending on how you want to look at it, is as soon as you put in your Gmail, it's going to then ask you to confirm that, it's going to take you to the page where you would re-log in or whatever to Gmail. It's going to ask you to do that, which fine, you do that. Once you do that though, what's going to happen is it is going to sync all of your contacts that you have in that Gmail account to your MoxiEngage. So if for some reason you don't want to do that, you may want to create a separate Gmail account that you're going to use just for this. And maybe you call it, I don't know, real estate and your name or whatever, but you can decide what you want to do with that. But just know that if you connect it with your Gmail, then like for mine, when I connected mine, it took all of the contacts out of my phone and put them right into Engage, which, like I said, that might be exactly what you want. And if it is, that's awesome. Then just connect your regular Gmail. If you don't want that though, then that's where I'm saying you might want to use a different Gmail account. Now, so the advantage to having it on the same one that you use on your phone is you're now going to have, anytime you put contacts in either place, it's going to sync up. So you're going to have the contacts showing up both places. So if you put a new contact into your Engage, it's going to show up on your cell phone as well. So like I say, depending on how you want to look at it, you might be like, that's awesome. That's exactly what I want. I've had other agents that are like, well, I don't want that. And so again, if you don't want that, use a separate Gmail than what you've got connected on your phone. So hopefully I said that enough. I always get the call after somebody's done it and they're like, I didn't want that. So anyway, so like I said, I'll record this. And so I always say it over and over again, hoping that that's going to help to alleviate people having problems.
So even just like the contacts that you only have like their phone number, not their Gmail, they will transfer?
Correct. Yep, all of your contacts, any contact that you have that's connected, if it's connected with your Gmail account, it will put them into here. So, all right, so now with that, you're on the dash. Oh wait, sorry, I didn't finish. So that's the first thing you have to do is you're going to put in your email address to connect it through the Gmail, and then once you do that, it's going to say that it's going to take a little while for it to sync up everything, which depending on how many contacts you have is how long it's going to take to sync up. So I've seen some where it's really fast, like within a couple of minutes. I've seen others where it takes up to 2 hours before it'll let you actually get in. That's a rarity. It's usually not 2 hours, but it's usually going to take a few minutes. And then it will, once it's synced all your contacts, it'll bring them in there. The next thing that it's going to ask you to do is to put in what your GCI goal is. So it's next going to ask you, how much money do you want to make in the next year? So you're going to put in what your goal is for gross commission income. And the idea of that is the system is connected with our Century 21, and to where as you close transactions, it's going to keep track so that you can see, are you on track for your goals in terms of your income or not? So, and then once you've done that, it should bring you then to this dashboard. So I want to go through and explain the dashboard first here. So you'll notice on the dashboard that the first thing up at the top here is this stay in flow. So the idea of this stay in flow, and I actually really love this for the system. Agents are typically not great at staying in touch with their sphere of influence. And so what the system is going to do is it's going to offer up to you 5 people every day of, here's 5 people you should be contacting today from your sphere of influence. Now, how it's determining that is what we'll talk about as we go through more of this, but I'm going to show you how you can manipulate this a little bit. So if you click on this little gear icon right here, what it's going to ask you is, what is the cadence that you want it to do? So you're going to choose how long someone has been out of touch before they are going to surface. So the idea of this is, if you have somebody that's in your system, you can say, if I haven't talked to them or put some type of information in here for them in 30 days, offer them up to me, or 60 days. I have mine set at 90, and that's the default, I believe. Is so every 90 days that you haven't talked to someone or made a touch to them, what's going to happen is the system will bring it up there. It'll offer them up right here of this stay in flow of, here's 5 people you should be contacting today. Okay, so that's the cadence. Then it's going to say, okay, these are the people that you want it to surface. So that's, and I'll show you how you're going to set this piece up. But the next thing it's going to ask is, okay, so do you want people that are pending to show up in that to be surfaced? Which you probably don't want people that are pending, because if you've got somebody under contract, you better be talking to them more than every 90 days, right? So you probably don't necessarily want that one. Same thing with active. Again, you may or may not, you decide, but if I'm actively working a client, I probably also don't want to go 90 days without talking to them. So I'm not going to have it surface those people. But prospects, I do want it to surface, and marketing people, and I'll explain what these are in a second. Past sellers, past buyers, and then anybody new in the system. So you can decide how you want that to take place. So I'm actually going to turn off the new as I think about that. The other options is you can have it based on if they're categorized, if they're a personal contact, or if they're a collaborator. Now, so let me explain what all those are. So you're going to see in a minute as we go through and start showing you the system, that every contact that you put in is going to, we're going to want to identify them as either someone we're marketing to, which would be the idea of how I think about the marketing is just people that I think or hope to get business from. Okay, I would call those people, I would classify them as marketing. A prospect, the way the system looks at a prospect is somebody in your pool from marketing that has said, I might want to do something. So it's somebody who's now thinking about doing something. And the way I like to say is, think of it as marketing is just people I hope I sometime ever do a deal with. A prospect is somebody that hopefully in the next year I'm going to do a deal with them. So think of it as a funnel, and we're starting with just like this huge group of like, I just hope to do business with any of these people or people they know. A prospect is now going to be, well, these people have expressed some interest, but they're not ready yet. And then active would be, yeah, they've signed a buyer broker with me, or they've signed a listing agreement with me, is what active would be. Okay. And then obviously a past seller or a past buyer hopefully makes sense that they're people that you've helped in the past. So that's the idea of the settings on this. So you can see now, as I changed that, what's happened is, because I took out the check mark for new, it's changed the people that are showing up here to me. And it's showing me people that are in the marketing phase versus before, when I put them in here as new, it was people that are offering up these people that are new. So meaning I've put them into the system, but I haven't classified them yet as marketing or prospect or active. Okay? So that's why I was saying, for me, because I'm not if I was actively working as an agent right now, so if I were you guys, I probably would want to leave the new in here, because that's going to be my reminder that you need to classify them, and it's going to help them to show up here. So you just decide if you do or you don't want it to show up that way. But that's how it's going to decide the 5 people that it's going to offer to you right here. Okay. All right. So that's stay in flow. The next one down is your sales flow. So now we just talked about how marketing is this big group of people, and then prospects is going to be typically a little smaller. Actives is usually going to be a little smaller than that, and then pending even smaller than that, typically. So that's the way for you to look at it and say, like, I don't know why they didn't call it sales funnel. Maybe it's proprietary or something, but they call it sales flow. To me, I think of it as a sales funnel. So of all the contacts that I have in the system, I have 51 of them marked as marketing, 2 of them marked as prospects. I don't have anybody set as active or pending. Well, you're going to see in a minute, I've got somewhere around 500 contacts in here. So you can see that most of them are not marked as anything yet. They're probably still showing as new. So I'll show you how you would want to take care of that. So again, I haven't done it because I just use this system to train. I'm not actually really doing anything with it as far as trying to generate business from it. So anyway, all right. So that's the sales flow. So that's just like from the dashboard at a glance, you could look at it and go, all right, yeah, I got people working their way through the pipeline, and that would be good. Next down is the activity feed. The activity feed is showing you, here's the activity that's going on. Now, similar to what we talked about up here at stay in flow, you've got this little gear. Down here on the activity feed, there's a gear as well. So if you click on that settings, you can decide what activity do you want it to show. And so the options you have is any website activity, any email activities, presentation activities, or automated activities, and what time frame do you want it showing in. And your options are 3 days, past week, past 2 weeks, or past month. So I've just left mine as, I want to know in the past month what activity's gone on. So you can see it shows me that yesterday there were 3 neighborhood news emails sent out. And on the 16th, there was 1 neighborhood news email sent out. And on the 7th, 1 subscriber opened my neighborhood news. And so it's just going to keep track of the activity. So that's kind of cool, is at a glance, you can see what kind of activity is happening on your system. And that's the activity feed. Next is the to-do list. And so these are your task lists and or transaction tasks. So you can see if you click on transaction tasks, it's giving me stuff that I need to be doing for a transaction. And on the my tasks would be any task that you want to do that you have scheduled, or if you wanted to schedule. So I could click here and do add a task, and then I could add in a task right here of, whatever I wanted to put in as that task. And then once it's completed, you can mark it as completed. So there's the task that I want to do. Once I've done it, and now I'm done. And then anytime you can see your completed tasks by clicking there, and you can see I just always make stuff up. All right, that's the to-dos. Next is the calendar. So if you have calendar events in there on the calendar that you're connected to, it's going to show up on there as well. So any appointments and things that you have would show up there. Again, there's a gear icon. So I could have it decide what I want it to show me. So I haven't tried it with birthdays or anniversaries. Let's see if that does anything. Doesn't look like it. Or let's see if transaction tasks. I don't think I have any anyway. So anyway, so that's on the gear. You can just decide what type of things do you want it to show up there. And then next down is your goals completion. So remember I told you when you first log in, it's going to ask you to put in what your goal is. That's based on what you've put in for your goal. It's then going to show you. So I'm put in here that I wanted a goal of 850,000 in GCI. I'm 3% there, and it's only October, so I'm off to a great start, right? On hitting my goal there. So anyway, that's the idea of that, is you can put all that in there. Sorry, the wrong spot there. It's at a glance, you can see where you're at in terms of your goals, okay? And then the last thing on this page is the My Listings. And for whatever reason, it's struggling to load. But this is where you can go and see your active listings and any, or active and pending, and then sold. So you can see, so I do have my aunt and uncle's house listed right now. It's under contract and ready to close actually today, I think, because the buyers are signing. But so that's going to show that, this active and pending. And then you can also go to, here's some sold listings if you wanted to see kind of what's happened with that. All right, so that's the dashboard. So the idea of the dashboard is just to kind of give you a quick glance when you first land in there. If here's 5 people you should call today, here's what your business looks like, here's activity that's going on, here's your task you need to do, calendar, and how you're doing in terms of your goals, okay? All right, so the next thing up here is the people. So that's where we're going to go next, is this people section. And I'm going to go to the My People next. So under this My People section, now what you'll see is, you can see here I've got 590 people in the system. But if you remember back from the dashboard here, only 51 of those people are marked as marketing. So the first thing that tells me, so if I were you as an agent and I put all my people in here, and I had 590, but only 51 are set as marketing, what that tells me is I need to go through and get more people put into that status of that I want to market them. So the idea of that would be, is you've got this thing right here called Categorize Wizard. So there's 2 different ways you can go about doing this, and I'll show you both of them. But the easiest way is this Categorize Wizard. So if I hit Categorize Wizard, what's going to happen now is it's brought up everybody that I have in the system that is uncategorized. Now, what I can do then is I can go through and categorize these people, and you can see I can do a bunch of them all at once. So the idea of this would be, is I'm going to look at the contact. Now remember, this has just pulled all of my contacts from my phone in, and the majority of the contacts in my phone in today's world are mostly agents. They're either agents or people that we work with that way. So for example, you can see I've got our photographer, which I don't think he's with VHT anymore, but this is our photographer, of who most people within the company use when they get a listing. So he's not a client, but remember, he's uncategorized right now. So the system's kind of like, he's in here, but I don't really know what to do with him. So I'm going to help the system know what to do by saying, is he a client or a non-client? Well, I mean, I would probably love to do business with him, but I don't send him enough business as the photographer. Like, he's probably got a ton of other agents who he would list his house with. Now, part of that is I've just never talked to him about it either, which I got a story for you sometime for you on that in a different class. But talk to people, even if it is our photographer. Don't just assume what I just said is that they probably already have somebody, because more than likely nobody's ever talked to them, just as an FYI. But so is he a client or a non-client? Well, I'm going to say he's a non-client. Okay, so now it's saying, well, is he a personal contact or is he a collaborator, or should we just flat out remove him from Engage? Well, in this case, I would say with him, he's a collaborator. So the idea of a collaborator is just somebody you're going to collaborate with. Well, I collaborate with him on getting pictures for my stuff. So you could, like I say, you can either mark it as personal, you could put it as collaborator, or you could just flat out say, just take him out of Engage. So removing him from Engage will not remove him from my phone, because remember I said they're linked. So it won't remove him from my phone, it just removes him from Engage. So I'm going to just say on him, he's a collaborator. So now he's designated as a collaborator. So now I would want to do the same thing with Brett Broadhead, which I don't even actually know who that is. So I'm going to skip him for now. Carlin Bedwell is an agent down in our St. George office. She works in the Bryan Head area. So if you ever have any clients down there, she's a good one to refer to. But as I said, she's an agent, so probably not going to do real estate with me, so non-client. She a personal or a collaborator or removed from Engage? I'll just say collaborator. Next would be Chad. He's an agent, so I'm going to just say, and I'm going to do on him, removed from Engage. So you'll notice it pops up and says, removing from Engage will hide their associated transactions and deactivate all their subscriptions, but will not delete them from your email contacts. You can remove people from settings. Are you sure you want to say goodbye? Yep, so remove. Okay, so now he's removed from Engage. You can see right there. So the idea of this is you can see how quickly I could come through and just say, Brett Broadhead, not sure who that is, so I'm just going to say remove from Engage. Get rid of him. Not sure who that is either. Remove. And remove. Okay, so that quickly now I've taken 6 people from being uncategorized to categorized. So now I can say show me more. And then from here, I can just keep doing that same thing, going through. So this Clayton McLeod, he was an agent that I owned some investment properties in Mississippi, and he helped me with those properties, but I'm done now with him. So I'm going to just say he's a non-client, removed from Engage. You know, I maybe would want to keep him as a collaborator, but you can see the idea of this is you're just going to go through and just categorize these people, and you just keep doing show more and going through and categorizing them. You know, Corey was an agent with us that's not anymore, so remove. You know, you can just see all this stuff I can do. This is one of my son's friends, so he's not even old enough to buy a house. Remove from Engage. So you can see that's how you do it. All right, so once I've done that, then I can go back to the people, my people. You'll notice now, so I had 590 and now it's at 583, and that's because 7 of those people I just said remove from Engage, so they're out of there. So one of your first things you want to do in this system is go through and figure out what are the people that you want to put in as marketing and the ones you don't. So let me actually go back to that. Let me see if I can find one that I would want to put in as to the marketing so I can show you what that looks like. I'll do this one, Curtis Reiner right here. So with Curtis, I'd say, yes, I want him to be a client. And so now it's saying, do I want to create a marketing plan? So remember, what was marketing? If they're in the marketing status?
Just anyone that you deal with.
Anybody that I want to do business with. So that's where he's not a prospect because he hasn't told me he's wanting to buy or sell. And he's not a seller prospect. He's not a buyer prospect. So I want to create a marketing plan. Well, is he a past seller, a past buyer, a past seller and buyer, or none of these? I haven't helped him do any real estate, but I would like to, so none of these. Okay, so keep this person top of mind with a marketing plan? Yes. Hit create plan, and now he's added to that marketing section. So now, if I go back to my dashboard here, you can see I went from 51 people in marketing to now 52. All right. So that's one way to get people categorized. The other way you can do it is you could go through and do it one at a time. So for example, this is where I usually get myself in trouble on showing personal identifiable information. So I'm going to actually create a contact first that we'll just call test. So I'm going to do so let me back up on this. So if you want to add somebody to the system, all right, here you've got this add people right here. At any time, you could just hit add people, and am I wanting to import them? Because you can import them if you had a CSV for that, or single. So I'm going to just say a single contact, and then I'll just put test person, test person, and a phone number. I'm going to, hopefully this won't create a personal identifiable information. Hopefully that's not really somebody's phone number. And then email, no email blah blah blah.com. Hopefully that. What I don't know is if YouTube will pick that up and be like, you just shared personal identifiable information, which so hopefully doesn't. But then I can put in their address, some instant messaging, any of this information that I want, and then hit done. Okay. So now that I've hit done, it's created this test person. So now I'm going to go back here. And I don't know if you had walked in, Savannah. The reason I was saying that is I always upload these to YouTube after, and they've started saying, you showed personal identity, and they blocked my video. So I'm trying to do it to where it won't block it. So, okay, so now I'm in here. I've got that person. You can see my contacts went from 583 to 584. So I'm going to go type in test, and then here's test person. So now there's the contact. So remember, there's two ways I can classify them in the system. So I'm going to click on test person here. And you can see it's brought me into their transaction. And then now it's saying, tell us more about this person. Is test, or whatever the person's name is, a client? So I would do the exact same thing I had just shown you before, is I'm either going to say, yes, it's a client, or it's a non-client, okay? So I'll say, yes, it's a client. And I want to make him as either a marketing, I'm going to do it as a marketing plan. So I'll create a marketing plan. Is he a past seller, buyer, none of these, none, and then create plan. So you saw that it's just the exact same thing, but it takes a little bit longer to do it that way than if we did the categorize wizard. But now that we've done that, let me show you that next piece of this. So I'm going to go back to just the people, my people section here first, real quick. So from my list here of people, if I click on that to go into them, this is where it's going to take me into basically their details page. So from this details page, you can see it's landed me and it's showing that they are in the marketing status. Okay? And then you'll notice prospect is grayed out, active is grayed out, pending is grayed out. So as this person then follows that funnel and goes from a marketing person to a prospect, the tasks down here are going to change. So the system has some default tasks set up, and you can change these. That's a little bit more advanced than what we're going to talk about today, but you can go through and change these tasks. But just as a default, so as soon as I put this test person in and made them a marketing prospect, the system on November 5th is going to tell me I need to make a personal follow-up call or reach out on social media. So it's basically saying you need to make a contact with this person. Then on the November 10th, if I haven't already done this, it's going to remind me, set them up on neighborhood news, which I'm going to show you guys how to do that. In fact, if you don't remember anything else we talk about, make sure you get that part, because that part will make you money more than anything else. So first is get people in here. Second is get them on neighborhood news. If you don't do anything else we talk about from the class, you'll make money, okay? All right, so it's gonna remind me on the 10th to do that, to subscribe to a monthly newsletter, make a personal phone call, schedule a meeting. So it's got all these tasks that it's gonna remind me to do. The other thing that it has, just kind of as a by way of, so that you're aware, is it's got their profile information over here. So if I click on profile, it's brought up phone number, email address, all of that information. And you can see, I can see what's missing. And it looks like you can even add public records to this person. So that's interesting. I haven't seen that before. The next one is notes. Under the notes section is where you could just go in and type in notes. Now, here's the thing though, this one gets a little bit confusing, is notes is a spot for you to just go type like a general note. Like, I don't really know for sure what you would want to put in here, because whatever notes you put in here, those are the notes. Like, you can't go add more notes. I mean, you could add more notes, but you're just adding them into this box. It's not like you're date stamping and adding new notes. So sometimes people get confused on that with activity. The activity is where you're going to keep track of what most people would think the notes are. So activity is where I would create or keep track of. So I'll show you, if I create a custom activity, it's like, what kind of activity did I do? A phone call, a voicemail, text, social media, email, mail, or I met in person. So let's just say met in person, and we talked about him buying a home next year, okay? So when was the date and time that that appointment took place? We'll just say it was yesterday at 7:30 p.m. Okay, so done. So now you can see it's logged when that took place. So 16 hours ago, I met with him. And then from here, every time I made contact, had conversations, I would want to come in and do we texted about getting approved for a loan. Done. So 4 minutes ago, it's saying I added him to the sphere. 16 hours ago, I met him in person, and then a few seconds ago, I texted him this. So activities where you're going to keep track of just the interactions you're having with it, okay? Favorites and saves, this is going to be around properties from your website. So we'll do that more on a different class when we talk about the website. But this is where you would keep track of any saved. It would show up any properties that they've saved on your website or favorited. So that's that. And then presentations is going to be tied to Moxie Present. So this would keep track of any of those presentations that you have over there. Next, you can see here that he's in the marketing plan. So if I wanted to create a presentation, that's going to take me over to Moxie Present, which again, we'll do that in a different class. Marketing plan, if I click on that, is where it's going to bring me back to here. So now let's say we texted and he said, we met in person. He said that he wants to buy in the next year. Well, remember, for me, I've defined my prospects as anybody that's saying in the next year they might do something. So for me, I actually run and move him now out of this marketing section into being a prospect. So I just click on make this person a prospect. So now it's going to ask, is he a buyer or a seller? Well, he said he wanted to buy, so he's a buyer. Do I know an MLS number? No, so I'm not going to put anything in there. What about areas of interest? So I could just put in Sandy Draper. Does he have a target price range? Yep, $5 million. Okay. How many bedrooms? 10 minimum, 6 minimum, square footage, 15,000, whatever. And then it also lets you kind of keep track of, how much would your commission be on that, so that it'll keep track for you of, hey, based on stuff in your pipeline, how much money should you be making? So I could put that in there. If there's other associated people, so if they had a spouse that I wanted to put in, I could type in their name there, any other details, and then I'm going to hit done. So now what's going to happen is by doing that, you can see it's checked off the marketing section, and now he's in the prospect section. And it's now got me a whole new list of tasks to do for that person because they're in as a prospect. Now, once I would just continue to work them as a prospect until they become active. So let's say now he's signed a buyer broker with me. So once you move them forward, you can't return it to the prospect zone. You sure you want to do it? Yes, because he's going to be active now. So now it's moved it and it's got different tasks for me to do based on that. But if for some reason, let's say the transaction fell apart, well, or I moved it to pending. Let's do that first. So let's move them to pending. What's the estimated close date? We'll just say it's end of November. Are you ready to move it forward? Yes. Okay, so now it's saying, okay, now you have to give us an MLS because I said it's a buyer, and if they're under contract, we should have an MLS number. So put that in. If not, I could put non-MLS and put in information that way. So I'm going to do that since I don't have any of that. Say done. So now, again, based on that, it's going to have different information here as far as tasks and details about the closing. Okay, but let's say deal fell apart. He lost his job, not going to be able to buy, whatever. So now I can delete or deactivate the transaction. So if I click on that, it's going to say deactivate to record. This is a lost deal or a potential deal. Delete to remove permanently. Oh, sorry. So deactivate is to record it as a lost deal or a potential deal. Delete is to remove it permanently from the record. So you're probably not really ever going to delete very often. You're just going to deactivate. So I click on deactivate, and what's going to happen then is it's now deactivated this person. And if I go back down here under the marketing plan, you can see it's put him back to marketing. So anywhere along the way that when you're doing this, if for whatever reason the deal falls apart, whatever, you can put them back into the marketing by deactivating that transaction. Make sense? All right. Now let's get to the fun stuff. Because I told you that there's some stuff you want to make sure you understand and learn. Next, then. The next thing on this is we just talked about the marketing plan and showed you how all of those pieces. Next thing down here is subscriptions. The subscriptions this is what you want to do is get as many people from your sphere or your phone, however you want to say it, into this system, and you get them set up on these subscriptions. So I'm going to click on add subscription. And now what it's asking me is, do you want to put them on neighborhood news or listing announcements? So let me explain both of those. Listing announcements is not what I at least initially thought it was. When you hear listing announcements, what would you assume? What do you guys think it means without hopefully reading what it says? What do you think listing announcements would be?
I would think just showing like what's just listed.
Yeah, that's what I would think too, is I would think, are you still there, Mateo? I should give you a second to answer.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, that's, to me, I feel like it's this dumb name, but listing announcements to me feels like you're saying, okay, notify this person about new listings, which it is kind of doing that. But if you look at it, it says subscribe peeps to listing announcements to show off your recent listings and sales to your past, present, and future clients. Send just listed or just sold. So really, to me, listing announcements should be called just listed or just sold. So because the idea is if you subscribe somebody to that, anytime you list a property or you sell one, anybody that's subscribed to that, it's going to notify them, Savannah just listed this property, Mateo just sold this property, which that's not what I would think that's what it is. But just so you know, that is what it is, and I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just, to me, when you hear listing announcements, you think, oh, new listings coming on the market, let them know about it. That is what it is, but it's only your new listings. But neighborhood news. So neighborhood news, so let me give you a little quick story on this. So I got my license in 1996. 1997 or 8, and I don't remember which it was, 97 or 98. I am in a sales meeting at my office, and we have a guy show up to our sales meeting, and he's there to try to sell a software program that was called Top Producer. Top Producer is still around today. It's something you could go and do. It's very similar to what MoxiEngage does, only costs a lot more money and da-da-da. But he was there to try to sell this program. Now back then, we didn't have any programs stored on the internet. It was, you would load it onto your computer. He was there to try to sell it. Well, at the meeting, he said, I am about to give to you guys the best marketing idea you could do to your sphere of influence. And he said, and none of you are going to do it. Well, I'm a newer agent at the time, and I probably was 2 years in the business. And I remembered thinking, I don't care what he says next. This guy travels the country selling this software program, going in and out of offices, sitting in on sales meetings, and he's going to now share with me the best idea he's ever heard for marketing to your sphere of influence. So I was like, he also just said none of us are going to do it. So I was like, I don't care what he says, I am doing it. And then I did actually what he said to do. And I will tell you, it was the best marketing idea ever for your sphere of influence. So what he said was this: do a newsletter every month that you send out to your sphere of influence, showing them, here's the homes that are for sale in your neighborhood, here's the homes that are under contract, and here's the homes that are sold. And he said, because people care about that. He said, I see these people try to sell postcards for like recipes. And he said, those don't work, but this works. Send to people, everybody's curious about what's going on in their neighborhood in terms of real estate. So I started doing it, and I will tell you, it was the best marketing idea ever. Now, here's the good news. This system does that automatically for you, called Neighborhood News. So the idea of Neighborhood News is it is going to send to each person that I set up on Neighborhood News, it's going to send to them once a month an email with, here's what's going on in the market in your area. So I'm going to show you how to set that up, okay? So you're going to click on add subscription, and then you have two options. We can either do a quick ad, in which case I could just throw in a zip code for the person, and then it's going to just send them properties based on the zip code. My personal opinion is that's too broad. I don't think you want it that broad. So instead, my recommendation is do a custom targeted search. So I'm going to click go. Now what the system would do is, if I had his home address and stuff, or this person's home address, it should bring it up for that area. But if it doesn't, then I can just decide based on typing in either a city, an address, a neighborhood, or a zip code. So I'm just going to come and put in here Pepperwood for Sandy. So you can see I started to type in a neighborhood, and it's brought up Pepperwood for Sandy. So now that I've selected that, you can see, because I've grabbed the neighborhood, which it's done a much bigger area than just Pepperwood, but it's pulled up, and you can see there's tons and tons of properties, way more than we want. So I don't want to do that. So I'm not going to do that. But now that we're here, instead, I'm going to come over here and do this draw. So first I'm going to just get rid of this, sorry. Then I'm going to come over here and do you have either a quick draw or a multi-draw. I'm going to do the multi-draw. And you can see it's now created to where, and I can zoom in a little bit here, to where I could just say, okay, I want to capture homes that are, and I know this isn't Pepperwood, but I'm just grabbing whatever here. So I'm going to just say, I want that location. So what it's doing now is now it's done a search based on in this area. So you would want to select the neighborhood that the person lives in. And it's still building it out here, but you can see here's all the properties that are active. So the green is the active, red is these two have sold, and usually yellow is going to be pending, but it doesn't look like there are any pending in there. So if it had some under contract or pendings, would show there as I think yellow, if I remember right, or maybe it's kind of a gold, but anyway, so it's showing these properties that have sold and are under contract or active. Now, typically I say that's good enough, just stop right there. for the most part. Now, if for some reason though, you're getting a ton of properties, which I still feel like this is too many, so I maybe would want to shrink the size of the map. So I may want to clear it and say, okay, let's do that again, do the multi-draw, and let's maybe just go like this. See what that comes up with, see if that has, that's still quite a few. So I may want to even shrink it down to smaller, even this. Now, here's the thing though, that's going to vary based on the neighborhood. If basically, if I know this neighborhood and I know, yeah, the people in this neighborhood and this neighborhood are really, the houses are the same and they would be interested, then I'm probably going to leave it like it is. But if I felt like, no, this is a different demographic, different, and when I say demographic, meaning it's the houses are much different, I might want to cut that off and do it here instead. Or maybe I say, no, I want to keep all of this. I want to keep this whole area, but what I want to do is maybe I want to filter it down to say, like, let's look and see here. Are the price ranges all about the same? Well, they're not too bad. But let's say that maybe I wanted to filter it down a little bit because let's say there was a big range in the houses, meaning like some of them were $1 million houses and some of them were $500,000 houses. I maybe don't want to send to my seller all of those properties. So you can come up here and based on price, say only bring up properties that are within this price range, or you could say only with so many beds and baths, or I could filter it out and say, I don't, like, for example, on this one, I could say, I don't want it to include multifamily. I don't want manufactured homes. I don't want townhomes or condos. I only want single family because I feel like that's all they're going to care about. Now, I don't know if that's going to change anything in here. Doesn't look like it did. Yeah, it didn't really. But I could filter it down by square footage too. So I could go in and say, okay, only show me houses that are between 2,000 square feet and 3,000 for, let's just say 3,000. Oops, not 300. And apply. Let's see what that does. So you can see that narrowed it down. So if my contact that I'm creating this for had a home that was between, let's say it was 2,500 square feet, I might want to whittle it down to that. Now, the concern that I have on this is that now we maybe have too few of properties. So I might come up and just say, okay, let's go up to 3,400 square feet. So there's not necessarily a number I'm looking for, but I maybe just want to say, like, I want to have enough. Here's how I would say to think of it is I want to have enough properties that it's going to be sending this report when it sends it to them, it's got stuff going on. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So now that I've got that selected, I'm going to say next. So it now brings up and says, okay, here's the person that we are going to send it to. Here's the email address. If they had more than one email address, you would click on a drop down and select which email address. But since that's the only one, I'm going to say good enough and next. So the next thing it's done is it's brought up and saying, okay, it's going to put it in English and here's what the email is going to say. So if I wanted to change up this email, I could go change it to say whatever I wanted to. But I'm going to just say good enough. I'm fine with it. Next. So now it's saying, okay, it's got a custom boundary. Here's the 1,800 to 3,400 square feet. And it's now giving me a preview of what it's going to send to the client. So you can see it's going to send out to the client and showing Jane, hey, 3 listings for you. And this is just giving a preview, but they would be able to see those 3. And then it shows them for the surrounding area. So this is going to be based on zip code. It's just saying, here's what's gone on with sold prices since last year. So in the last year, this is what's happened with their sold prices in that area. It also is then going to show the market changes from August to September. So the active listings went down 1% and the sold went up 7%. The prices of the actives are up 1% and the sold prices are up 8%. Now remember, this is from August to September. Average days to sell. So let me back up. So here's the good news about that is there are a lot of people that still potentially feel like, well, I'm going to wait for prices to come down. Well, if you're sending this to them monthly, what they're going to see is that didn't happen last month. In fact, the price went up 8% last month. And if they're getting this every month, they can see what's going on. And then you can see here, it shows 2 of these active listings for the area, shows their price, beds, baths, square footage, the address, and then it does in smaller print shows who the listing broker is over here. And if they want to view more listings, they would click on that and it would take them to showing them. So the average days to sell is up 61% to 103 days, and then just kind of shows you what's going on in the surrounding areas. All right, so from here then I would just hit send to test person. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, even though it's not actually going to do it. And now what you can see on this is it's showing under neighborhood news, it's got the active subscriptions, their email address, it's a custom boundary. And then how this works is because it's sent today, on October 6th, it's going to next send on November 26th. So whatever day you set it up on is the day of the month, every month it will go out. Make sense? So just, if you want them all going out the same day, then sit down one day and build all these. If you'd rather them to be like, well, every day I want a few emails going out, then, if you've got 200 people, let's say, go through and just do 10 every day for a month to get through those 200 people. Then that way, every day of the month, it'll be sending out 10 emails to people, which I kind of think that's a good way of doing it, but it's up to you. So from here though, if I wanted to change anything up, well, first let me come back. So over on this side, under subscriptions, I had to click add, and it didn't have this, where it shows now neighborhood news. So if I was in a different section here, and I wanted to get back to neighborhood news, I just come down to here, click on that. It's going to bring me back to neighborhood news, shows me that it was sent out a minute ago. And if I go to details, then from here, I could come in and I could preview it, I could edit it, I could send it again or remove. So because that's not a real email address, I'm just going to hit remove. And it's saying, are you sure you want to remove it? Yes. Okay. So here's the thing. If you will go through and get people put into MoxiEngage, get them set up on neighborhood news, what's going to happen is it's going to start monthly sending that to them. The people that you're sending it to are going to be interested and curious in that, and they're going to appreciate you sending the information, and you become the neighborhood expert. See, what I found when that guy came and said it's the best idea that you could do, what I found from that is the people who you're sending this to, whether you want them to do this or not, it happens. They assume you're involved in every one of those houses. So when you're sending them, hey, here's some houses that sold in the neighborhood. And even though I showed you that it has the listing brokerage's name on it, they still think, well, that's your listing. And it's funny because they could be driving by seeing a different company's sign, but they will relate to it as, that's your listing. That you're the one selling that house. And when it sends the solds, they assume you sold. So you become, in their mind, the expert of the real estate market in their neighborhood. And they'll call you and be like, hey, so I had a question on that house you sold me, that you sold. And you're thinking of one you sold like in a different part of town or something. And you're like, yeah, what's up? And then they start asking you questions. And if you're not thinking, you'll be like, oh, I didn't sell that house. And you could say that, that's fine, because you didn't, but typically they think you sold it. So anyway, it creates a huge amount of credibility for you with people if you put them on that neighborhood news. And the other thing is the system is going to send you an email once a month once a week to let you know like what activity is going on. And we already talked about the activity from up here, but if you will keep an eye on the activity and what's going on within it, it will help you to stay in touch with the people to know, hey, this person's now starting to search real estate. I probably ought to call them. So I have a guy that I set up on this. Let me see if he Well, I probably shouldn't pull it. This is where I get in trouble again. I pull it up and then I show his personal information and then YouTube will block me. So I'm not going to show it to you. But I actually had a guy that I had set this up on just in a class. In class, I went through and set him up just in showing. And usually that's what I do is I'll go through and actually set people up until YouTube started blocking me. But I would go through and actually set a real person up on it. Well, I had done that with him. Well, then one day in class, I noticed he's like opening and searching. So I called him and he's like, yeah, I had helped him buy the house he was in. And he said, yeah, I got married right after I bought the house and I now have 2 kids and I need a bigger house. And I was like, great. So I got the listing to sell his house and helped him buy a new house. And it was all, I still would like to believe he would have called me anyway. I don't know if he would have or not, but I 100% can tell you, I contacted him about selling and buying a new house because of this system of it tracking what he was doing. So it works. And if you'll get the people set up on it and then just stay in touch with them, it'll work. All right, just the last couple things and then we'll be done.
I have a question.
Yes.
So just where it said like one subscriber has opened the neighborhood news.
Yeah.
That's where you can click on and it shows you who.
So it actually didn't, you'll get an email that says you've got activity and from that email you can click on it. I was thinking you could click on it here, but I don't think you can. Yeah, it's not letting me click on it. I thought you could, but okay. Yeah, I guess not. So, but you will get an email once a week that shows you the activity that's going on, and from there you can be able to see who's doing the searches on it. So, okay, calendar. Up here is just going to be the calendar. It's very similar to what I showed you and talked about before. Just going to keep track of your events and things that are going on in there. The goals is, again, this is where you can go in and you'll keep track showing your 3% of your goal, shows you how many were buyers or sellers and what the average size, all that kind of stuff is there. And you can look at active and pendings, prospects. And then remember where I was showing you, if you put somebody as a pending client, it asked for GCI and stuff. So if I went to here and clicked on this GCI forecast, it would give me then like, here's what your forecasted commission's going to be. So, and then the last thing, which again, this is a little more advanced, and I really just recommend the neighborhood news, but you can do campaigns. So you can see here, it's got a holiday campaign that you could set people up on, and then a seller warm prospect. You can go through and preview those to look at what they look like, and then you can add people to the campaigns. But for me, I don't think you need to do that. And again, like if you want to, you're welcome to, but I actually don't even really do much training on these campaigns because I'm like, until you've got everybody set up on neighborhood news, don't worry about campaigns. For whatever reason, agents love the idea of campaigns of, oh, it's going to send this cool thing on a holiday. Let me tell you what I've found with sending an email to people on a holiday. Unless you have a pretty good relationship with them, I found I get a lot of unsubscribes. It's like, yeah, I don't want this, unsubscribe. So to me, if you send neighborhood news, it's information they're interested in and want more information about. So anyway, all right, questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
Who has access to all this data? Is this just our personal information, or is other people able to access it?
Yeah, great question. You're the only one. I mean, obviously, this program is put together by the people who own the company Moxie, so obviously they would have access to it. But outside of that, as far as the company, we don't have access to it, if that's what you're asking.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. We have had systems in the past, and let me tell you, I've been training agents on these type of things for 17 years with 2 companies counting this one. There have been other systems that did have access to people's contacts. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but in the 17 years I've done it, the companies I've been with, that would be suicide for the company to actually take their information. We don't have access, but in the past, different systems like that business builder I was telling you, I could have gone in and seen and reassigned your leads and stuff, but we would never do that. But on this one, we don't have access, so it doesn't matter anyway. But cool. Any other questions? All right. Well, thanks for being here, and hopefully you got some good information, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
So if I already got on with I had like an email for real estate that like has no contact